what's up guys, Alex here. Thank you for checking this video and welcome to another episode about working with Linux. In this tutorial, we're going to take a look on how to install a super quick and fascinating local development environment for web development. So I'm basically talking about Valet Linux, and Valet Linux is a fork of Laravel Valet that originally was developed for Laravel, like for local development for web application, PHP and other frameworks, and created only for macOS. Luckily, a super cool developer decided to fork that system that basically uses all the Unix-based packages and techniques to create a Linux version of that Valet package. And Valet Linux is a Laravel development environment for Linux minimalists. I'm reading for the documentation because it's super straightforward and beautiful. No Vagrant, no etc hosts file configuration, and you can even share your site publicly using local tunnels. It's amazing. It works with nginx, DNS mask, and you can use basically whatever type of extension of your website, so you can use a .dev, a .test, whatever, and you don't even need to set it up every time you want to create a new website. You just decide which folder to use in order to trigger all the websites, and every time you create a folder inside the folder that you decide to park your Valet Linux installation, that folder automatically will create a local website that has access to all your currently available packages on your machine. So PHP, MariaDB, MySQL, whatever are the things. It's amazing. So let's take a look on how to install it. Let's go inside the GitHub repository. So you can search for Valet Linux inside GitHub and then click on the Valet Linux website. Here there's a little bit of introduction why Valet Linux is better than Homestead or a Docker or like a VM or a host or Vagrant or whatever you're currently using, and you have a full list of all the currently working frameworks and CMSs that can run on Valet Linux, so that's pretty fantastic. Let's follow up the installation. First, we need Composer to install it. So let's copy these inside our terminal. So Composer global require cpriego, that is the name of the developer, and Valet Linux is the name of the package. And we got prompt with our first problem. So this is really normal in this situation, and I said it as a disclaimer at the beginning of the series. We're gonna have a lot of problems because of course we're setting up a machine from scratch. So let's read what problem we have at the beginning. Requires nategood HTTP full. So it looks like we don't have curl installed, so let's run super quickly sudo apt get install php 7.1-curl. Let's enter our password. Okay, we installed curl, so let's try again to Composer global required Valet Linux. And it looks like it's working now. After a few seconds, all these packages installed by the Valet Linux required Composer installation now will be available for us to use by simply typing the command valet. So let's see if it works. Say valet install, and of course we're gonna get prompt with command not found valet, because if you notice, when we had the Composer installation and we say globally install Composer, globally install Valet Linux inside our Composer, you notice that we get prompt with this message: changed current directory to home alicat, that is my currently used name, .config/composer. But if you remember the previous lesson where we were able to use all these packages like PHP, npm, and node because we're inside the bin folder or like local user bin folder, you will notice that this Composer folder is not inside our local bin folder. So we cannot tap whatever it's inside this folder without pointing directly to that folder. So to solve this issue and to solve all the future issues to every global package that we're going to install via Composer, we need to add this directory to our executable directories or to our included directories inside our path, our global path. So in order to do that, let's say again zsh config to open our zshrc file. Oops, sorry. Wrong password. And now here in the export path, we need to extend it. So after the column before the $path, we can include our $home, all uppercase, to say start to search for this directory from our home directory, that in my case it's user alec_had, and then go to /.config, and then /composer, and /vendor, and /bin, because the vendor bin are the other two subfolders where all the vendor related packages are installed. So every time you do a composer global require whatever package, Valet Linux, AWPS, or whatever other package you use to install globally via composer is gonna get installed into composer/vendor/bin, and we need to tap that folder. So now we can say column before the end of the path to properly close our export path. And let me zoom out a little bit so you can see the full path. And here is the default one. We're tapping the home, then we're accessing the bin, column to separate another folder. We're tapping the user local bin, then column, and we're seeing again start from home, then /config, that is with the dot, so it's a hidden folder, then go inside composer vendor bin and add this directory to our path. Fantastic. Let's save it with Control O. Let's close it with Control X, and let's type again source /shrc. Perfect. Now let me zoom it so you can see it better. Let's clear this, and let's do once again Valet install. Perfect. Now Valet works, but of course we had other issues because we are missing some requirements to properly trigger Valet. And of course we get these little handy link that we can click by hitting Control and click, and we get all the requirements. So let's check what we're missing. Right now we're missing JQ, XSL, and cert util in order to create all these necessary things that we need for our installation. So Ubuntu require, there you go, we're missing all this stuff, OS packages. So let's copy apt-get install the network manager, libins, blah blah blah. Yes, install everything. Let's see if we have everything we need. So sudo apt-get install PHP 7.1, that our current version. Let's see the CLI, we have it, the curl, we have it, MB string, let's see. Oh, we missed that too. Okay, then let's install the encrypt. Yes, install this. And then let's install also the XML. And let's install the final one, that is the zip PHP1 package. Yes, this was missing as well. Okay, and I'd suggest you also to install the extra packages in order to tap the database, in order to use whatever database you decide to use with your local application. In my case, I'm gonna mostly use MySQL and Sqlite 3, but of course probably I'm gonna switch to MariaDB because I kind of like it better, but it's not really it doesn't really matter. The important thing is that we are not missing these packages, otherwise we're gonna have a really bad time. So let's install Sqlite 3. Beautiful. Then let's install MySQL. And then let's install finally PostgreSQL, PGSQL. Perfect. Now we probably have all the dependencies, so let's try again. Valet install, and it looks like it's working, but finger crossed. And of course we get another error because it's totally normal, as I said. So what is happening right now, basically, the first thing that Valet does is installing nginx. Nginx is another type of server similar to Apache, but if you notice, when we install PHP for the first time, also Apache was installed. And this is causing an issue because nginx is trying to run on the same port, it's trying to open and use the same port of Apache, and it's not possible because the installation was kind of successful, and then we got an error here when the web server started to try to trigger itself. So here we have the error, the address, it's already in use. The port 80 is already in use because it's the same port used by Apache. So what we need to do, we need to stop Apache. So let's say sudo etc init.d/Apache2 stop, and Apache2 was the one installed. And then let's actually remove Apache. So sudo apt get remove Apache2 because I don't need to use it. Okay, let's try once again Valet install. Finally, Valet was installed successfully, and this is a really good feeling, right? So as I said at the beginning of this series, we're gonna have a bunch of hiccups because it's totally normal when you set up a new machine completely from scratch, but luckily you have this really nice tutorial to fix everything, and every time you have an error, just don't panic, just read the error and try to find a solution. It's gonna be really easy. So now we have Valet installed, but of course, we don't have anything, like nothing works. Let's continue to follow the installation documentation. So after having Valet installed, once Valet installed, now we can try to see if it works to ping a test site. So let's say ping foobar, that it's a totally made up name, .test. That doesn't really exist, a foobar test, but if we ping it, look what happens. We're gonna get a bunch of packages, a bunch of bytes. So let me interrupt it because it gets really annoying. We're gonna get a bunch of packages sent to these localhost 127.0.0.1. That is the localhost IP address of our own machine. So only us on our machine can access this localhost because it's inside our machine. And we are getting a proper response time. So the conversation with this fake URL, it's working and it's fantastic. That means every time we create now a folder or site with the .test, automatically is gonna get redirected to our localhost, and we can develop everything inside a really simple folder. So let me show you how to properly set up Valet in a really cool way. So first, I don't like to use the .test domain. I like to use the .dev domain because it's better. Even if I know, again, like recently you can kind of buy a .dev domain, but I prefer to use .dev. So in order to change the name, let's use Valet domain, and then let's use dev. Valet is going to do his magic, restart the DNS mask and PHP 7.1, so that's perfect. Now if we do a ping foobar.dev, it works. Wonderful. So now what we have to do, we need to set up a proper folder in order to use that folder as our main directory for all the sites that we want to serve. So in my case, I want to use a site folder in my main directory. So open my files browser, and here we have like the default location of my home directory. I already have a sites folder. I don't know if you have it, but this is really helpful because I'm going to use these sites as a folder. So in this folder, if I create a new one and I call, for example, alecad, if, for example, here I have a website installed, I have WordPress, or I have just a regular PHP file, I want to be able to simply go to my browser and say alecad.dev. I want to go directly into that folder and load whatever is inside the folder as a regular site. In order to do that with Valet, we need to do just a couple of things, and it's gonna be super cool. So let's access again our terminal, and let's go inside cd sites. Let's list, we have our alecad, but we don't have to do anything other than say Valet park. By say Valet park, automatically Valet will park itself in this directory. So now every time we create a new folder inside the sites folder, this new folder will be used as a website, will be handled as a unique, unrelated, completely separated website. So if I go inside cd alecad and I create a new file, so let's say touch index.php, and I open this index.php with sudo nano, and I type some really simple echo php info. I save this file and I close it. I don't need to do anything. Now if I go back to my alecad.dev and I refresh this page, look at that. Here we have our php info stuff. That's beautiful. And of course, you will notice that everything that it's installed in our current machine, it's actually all the things that Valet Linux installed for us. So PHP 7.1, FPM, we have all the packages that are currently available, and then we are using nginx. So if we type and we search for nginx, there you go. This is the current server software engine, and we have all the other fantastic cool stuff. So automatically, every time we create a new folder inside our sites directory, the new folder will turn into a standalone website, and that's amazing. So first, I want to do just another thing. I want to transform my locally served file into a secure served file. So in order to do that, I want to go back into my base directory where I parked Valet, and I want to say Valet secure Alicad. That is the name of my folder. And Valet is gonna do his magic. Fantastic. So if now I refresh Alicad, look at that. I get the HTTPS column -- blah blah blah. My site, my local site, is served as a secure site. And of course, Firefox doesn't recognize a locally secure file because the certificate that it's currently using is not actually like a proper valid certificate. Google Chrome, Safari, and Opera, everyone else, like all the other browsers, automatically recognizes a proper secure local environment, even if the certificate is not actually released by an authorized source, but whatever. If you want to use a local HTTPS website, you can just say add exception of your own local website. So confirm security exception, and automatically it's gonna load. We're gonna get this super annoying green lock with this yellow exclamation mark that it's an alert, but whatever, it's okay, we can deal with that. And if you're using Chrome, you're not gonna have this issue anyway. So now let's do another test. So we are inside our sites folder. Let's say create a new directory, make dir called test. Let's go inside test itself and let's create a new file, index.html, and let's also sudo nano index.html. And here I want to create just a simple HTML. Let's close the HTML, let's have the body, and just a simple h1. Let's call it test site. Really simple, nothing complicated. Let's save it, let's close it, and now let's go to test.dev, test site. Fantastic. Did you see how cool is Valet Linux? We didn't have to install or set up any local server. We didn't have to install and set up anything. So the only things that we did was installing a fully self-contained package that takes care of everything. And we didn't have to even tinker with the hosts file in order to properly redirect a folder and use it as a local host. Automatically, every time we create a new folder inside our parked folder, or the folder that we decided to park, in my case it's sites, automatically that folder will get turned into a standalone website that uses everything. So that's pretty fantastic. The last thing I want to do, I want to actually install MariaDB. So let's type sudo apt get install MariaDB-server. And let's say yes, we want to install all that good stuff. Perfect. Now, if we do mysql-v, let's access our installation by saying mysql-version. Let's say yes. So the current version of our MySQL, it's 10.1.25 of MariaDB for Debian Linux. You probably noticed that during installation, we didn't get any prompt of configuration that usually you get when you install MariaDB. And this is an example that you probably have in some Ubuntu installation. I don't know why sometimes I get this prompt, sometimes I don't. It's like, honestly, it's totally random, I don't understand it. But by default, MariaDB, when you install it, automatically sets the username as root and sets no password at all. So we can still log in inside our installation by accessing the MySQL login via sudo. So let's type sudo mysql -u root to say let's use the user root, and automatically we're gonna get prompt inside MariaDB. So I found this little command here to fix some issues with MariaDB in order to log in without the necessity of sudo. So let's use the MySQL database and let's say update user set the plugin to nothing. So we don't want to use any plugin to log in where the user it's equal to root, so our current user. Wonderful. Now let's flush the privileges. Now let's close MariaDB. Perfect, let's try again. Wonderful, now we can log into MariaDB through the MySQL command line without the necessity to type sudo. That's fantastic. Now MariaDB is set up, it's set up in our local server, can access by just simply typing 127.0.0.1 and accessing it by simply using the root username and no password at all. So we can use it to install Laravel, we can use all these settings that we currently have with Valet Linux to use wp-cli, to use install WordPress locally, install Laravel. So that's what I'm going to do in the next lesson. Basically, I'm going to show you how to install the command line tool for Laravel and WordPress, how to install and quickly set up a WordPress installation and a Laravel installation on our newly fresh, locally installed Valet Linux. So it's pretty much it for today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up or subscribe to my channel. And if you want, you can spend a couple of minutes on the support me page of my website, where you can find all different ways and methods to support me, to support my channel, and help me to do better videos and better tutorials for you. Thank you again, guys, and until the next lesson, as usual, happy coding!